The current highlight of this update is the Mikawa Flower Festival, a villa event that while it's not much to talk about, there are some things that could be connected with Mizuki's story quest and Raiden's friend Chiyo. While there might be not much to talk about, it's just a small little lore, but there is actually a deep connection between this event and Natlan's Archon quest. Well, deep is an overstatement, but more like a confirmation. I am deadass serious with the thumbnail by the way, so don't click away because I will explain it eventually. Today I'll be doing a very short recap of this event, and then we can talk about how Natlan's Archon quest has changed the world of Teyvat, along with its connection with this event. As always, don't forget to give this video a like and comment so the channel can be noticed by the algorithm. My name is Neko Gitsune and I make lore and commentary videos on this channel to keep you company. Now the quest itself, it's not much to talk about. It's about a Mikawa Flower Festival where the premise is for yokais and humans to create a new game for both entities to enjoy. However, in the middle of the festival, there are strange occurrences happening such as the doppelgangers and nightmares that are happening to certain people, and the traveler is attacked by a certain entity, which then we learn it as quote-unquote nightmare. However, during the investigation, it turns out that the doppelgangers are three baketanukis that have been experiencing this nightmare for 500 years, and this nightmare is connected to A's friend, who is a noni that got corrupted after she was swallowed by a beast during the cataclysm. She was slain by A's Muso no Hitotachi by having her hands and horns sliced off. Her horn was buried in Mount Yogo and was later found by the baketanukis shortly after. So, everyone has devised a plan to get rid of the nightmare for good by baiting it to the Mikawa festival, have a transport the nightmare and the traveler to the plane of Euthymia, and perform a ritual that can get rid of the nightmare once and for all. That's what they did, and the Mikawa Flower Festival returned to normal. In hindsight, this event is not much to talk about. But what if I tell you that everything that we learn in Natlan has strong connections with this event as well? All we know before the Archon quest is that the reason Chiyo's attack was because of Enraged, but Natlan's Archon quest reveals something more than that. With that said, let's get into the theory section. Now let's start with the identity of this nightmare and why it exists. The lore so far reveals that this beast that swallowed Chiyo was the Beast of Sin, but then A and Yai Miko revealed the more accurate description of it. Body of a tiger, tail of a serpent. Basically a reference to a yokai in Japanese folklore by the name of Nue, known to be an evil yokai that attacked Kyoto in the year of 1153. I'll be referring to this beast as Nue from now on. After Chiyo slayed the beast, she is experiencing constant nightmares of her lost comrades, her family, and even A. Now, if you remember what happened in Natlan's Archon quest so far, does this sound familiar to you? If you think of it as abyssal corrosion syndrome, then you are correct. We learned about abyssal corrosion syndrome from Capitano, who revealed that a lot of his comrades were experiencing this illness due to the severity of their contact with abyssal power. We even get an Archon quest that talks specifically about this illness, where we see Atoko, Chiquita, and Akotlan were experiencing this. The severity of this varies, and it seems Chiyo's severity is similar to Akotlan but way worse. Now, some may argue that this couldn't be possible, but there is strong evidence directly told to us in this event. First off, we know that this nightmare is indeed abyssal power because the traveler can absorb its power and cure the baketanuki. If it's not related to the abyssal power, then the traveler cannot purify them. Even the nightmare's color scheme is very similar to the color of the abyss. Secondly, the symptoms were the exact same thing with the abyssal corrosion syndrome, where the main symptom is hallucinations and reliving past traumas. Finally, connected to the second point, Chiyo was unable to contain herself to the point she attacked everyone while in her mind, she thought everyone was dead and were monsters, the same thing that we saw happen in Natlan's Archon quest, and that is by Akotlan. Apparently, the same thing happened in Inazuma. During the cataclysm, all nations of course were facing the abyss, no exception, including Inazuma. During this time, A revealed that everyone was experiencing nightmares that even Yumekui Bakus cannot cure. Such an odd thing, isn't it? We learn in Mizuki's story quest that Yumekui Baku's job is to eat the nightmares of humans, yet they cannot consume them. The moment these soldiers awake from their nightmares, they're unable to differentiate between reality and dream, making them gone rogue. Even if the Yumekui Bakus can cure them, they would have experienced something similar like Shiba and Murasaki, where they become severely ill after eating 2 nightmares from Susukida and Mihiko in Mizuki's story quest. Mizuki said that Yumekui Bakus would have gone ill if the nightmares they consume were on a huge scale of magnitude, so you can imagine what would happen to them if they eat the nightmares that Inazuma was facing back then. In Chiyo's case, it's possible that she was contaminated by the abyss the moment she was swallowed by Nue. We even see in the cutscene that she saw Nue was devouring everyone that she loved, causing her to go rogue because she thought she was still fighting Nue. The same thing happened with the Kotlan, where he thought everyone was dead and he was fighting the abyss alone. There is something a bit ambiguous here because in the cutscene, it is shown that A ended up slaying her regardless, but this could be a metaphor that the ritual succeeded, and what Chiyo sees at the end of her nightmare is A saving her. This cutscene is so heartbreaking to watch because this is basically just a reenactment of A's character trailer, especially in Korean because Chiyo's VA did a really good job portraying her despair, like she is feeling that scream. Interesting, isn't it? All this could have been avoided if the drought of lucidity was there, but of course this won't happen because neither Guthred or Capitano were in Inazuma back then and they have no reason to. There are some things that do not match with the symptoms. One of them is that how the nightmare eventually creates its own shape from the Baketanukis, which is not the case with the other victims in Natlan. The traveler was almost about to suffer from this but was able to break out of it, which could suggest that this is not the same illness. There's also a claim that if the nightmare died, the Bakedanukis could also die along with it, according to Yaemiko, which I am a bit inflicted with this part because as far as I know, this has never happened before. The closest that I can think of is an ancient name that if it's destroyed, the bearer cannot be revived. If it's related to the abyss, I guess Carbert's mask. The game even hinted that this is sort of a lie created by Miko, Mizuki, and the travelers so they don't have to slay her friend for the second time, but who knows. But I do believe that this is still the same case with the Natlanis because the symptoms are just very similar, and Capitano did say that the severity of it varies. Also, this is connected to Mizuki's story quest. We met an entity by the name of Kuroyume, who described by Mizuki is the bane of Inazuma back then, a yokai who lives off nightmares. So this nightmare that we see in the event could be something similar. Now this could be a part of Kuroyume, but I personally find that might not be the case because Kuroyume is based on dreams, while Nightmare, mentioned in the event, is an abyssal power. Besides, if that's the case, then why wouldn't he live off the Bakedanukis who had these nightmares instead for 500 years? However, it could be a thing that Kuroyume's skin is likely yokais that are corrupted by the abyss, since the way Mizuki described it in her story quest, they used to be bane of Inazuma, so they could likely live off the nightmares that the victims has faced and eventually become monsters that Inazumans have to face back then. But honestly, who knows? Now one thing that I want to say is that all this happened after Natlan's Archon quest. I will create a recap of it soon, but I might make it a bit shorter because it's already way past its hype. If you remember Capitano's paradox, he said one thing that is interesting that even I didn't think too much of it back then. I'm going to explain briefly about this paradox and give you reasoning why Renova cannot say no to Capitano's paradox. This is still relevant to the video, I promise. Renova is a rule in and of itself, so whatever she says, it will become the rule, and rules are not meant to be broken. Hear that, Trailblazer? The moment she created her deal with Xabalanque, the deal by itself became the rule. Renova will and must accept the Power Archon's death the moment they use her power. However, she herself cannot unalive humans because she nor the Shades are not allowed to intervene with humanity's fate by the heavenly principles. The angels exist solely for that, as their reason to exist is to aid humanity. That's why Yohualtechutin is the executor in Mavuika's execution. Now, this is where Capitano came into play, where he saw this as a golden opportunity and discussed the possibilities with Yohualtechutin. Because Renova cannot directly unalive Mavuika, she ended up accepting Capitano's paradox because if she unalive Mavuika, she will get punished. If she abandons her rules, she will also get punished. If she lifts the curse of immortality, she will eventually get punished. Not only that, regardless of the outcome, this will affect the whole Teyvat because Renova has abandoned one of her rules and the paradox has started to spread all over Teyvat. Like Capitano said, that paradox could uplift the natural order of this world. Now, I hope you understand. Now let's get back into the topic now that you know the context where I'm going with this. So far, everything that happens starting from the last Lantern Rite has connections with the ley lines and death. In Lantern Rite, we see death has been accelerating in Liyue, and if it wasn't for Wangshen Funeral Parlor, everyone in Liyue might have died sooner or later. This is supported by Ningguang, who finds it to be not a coincidence that everything happened after events in the Archon quest. Now, fast forward to Mikawa Flower Festival, Mizuki pointed out how this nightmare is connected to the ley lines. Even though the Bakedanu Kiss has been experiencing this nightmare for almost 500 years, why has it decided to attack now? The reason it appears in the first place is because of the amount of festivities that currently happen in Inazuma, so why didn't it attack before? Remember, festivities in Inazuma is not new, and we see this with the past events like the Irodari Festival, Akitsuki Modameshi, the Summoner Summit for the TCG tournament, and the most recent one being Iridescent Arataki Music Tour. Some of you might disagree with me on this idea because this time, we are facing dreams, which is far from death. That's true, we are facing a dream. A dream of the dead. Chiyo is dead now, but her dream still lingers. Her horn is the root of why all this happened in the first place, and generally speaking, all this would have happened sooner during the Sakoku Decree's abolishment because there's a lot of joy that must have happened during that time. So, you get where I'm going here? All I'm saying is that there's no way all of this is a coincidence. Hence why Natlan's Archon quest definitely created a huge toll for Genshin Impact's story from this point on. We might even get more hints and lore about this in the next nation. And I really want to see how this goes with Fontaine because Fontaine is the nation where the theme of life resides the most. Not only that, I'm also curious about Sumeru because in Sumeru, the forbidden knowledge causes countless of deaths to the people. There's also Mondstadt where death has a strong connection to, and there are a lot of other places that were teased but we never get to visit. Finally, this could also be a huge build-up for Durin because Durin is an abyssal monster created by Rhindaughter. We are hinted in Simulanka that Durin will revive soon, so does this mean he will revive once again now that Renova and Capitano have created a paradox? Honestly, only time will tell. Now, before I end this video, I just want to talk about the possibility of Chiyo and his other friends to be playable because I remember people wanted them to be playable. The thing is, the possibility is zero, but if she could, how can it be implemented? Well, Istaroth, the Shade of Time. Now, the possibility is there, but the thing is, I doubt that'll happen because Istaroth is no longer seen by others, and even if she could, she would be punished by the Heavenly Principles. To be honest with you all, I believe she has already been punished because out of the 4 shades we know of so far, Istaroth and Renova are 2 shades that overstep their authority by directly intervening with humanity's fate. Besides, I feel like Inazuma's arc has finally ended now that we know what happened with Chiyo, but there is still one thing that we have yet to know of, and that is the location of the Electro Sovereign. Remember people, Orobashi is not the Electro Sovereign. There are theories that the Electro Sovereign is in either the Purple Sea, a location mentioned by Berat in Port Ormos, or underneath Tatarasuna, as mentioned by Kuki Shinobu's sister Miyuki, where she said there's something sealed underneath it in Sakura Arborism World Quest. Although, if there is more than that, I would like to think that the statue of Omnipresent God could likely have more of a role in the future because we are finally entering the territory of Shining Shades. It used to be just mentioned, but now that it's officially here with Renova's debut, I think Inazuma and Mondstadt will have a huge role when it comes to Istaroth in the future. Perhaps this is where they might even introduce revival. Perhaps we see Signora finally revived. Who knows? Keep coping. In any case, I am excited to see what happens next in the future. Honestly, I am happy that this event is quite short but not that straightforward because with this, I can have fun to revisit all the lore and connect them for you guys to enjoy. I hope you all enjoyed today's short video. Next video will be a lot longer, so be sure to stick around. If you like this video, don't forget to give this video a like and comment so the channel can be noticed by the algorithm. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys on my next video. Jana!